Hello and welcome to Foreign Policy Focus. This is episode 67 and I am the show's host, Kyle. Today's show may be a little short. For those of you who like the page Kyle Files know that I haven't posted a news roundup over the weekend. I had some family in town and so I had a lot of fun, but doesn't always make it easy to keep up on everything in the news cycle. So in today's story, I'm going to be talking a little bit more off the cuff of just a few things that I've read over the weekend, and I want to cover some stories that I maybe haven't gotten into a whole lot of detail of, but that have been developing over the past month or so. And the first one is Mosul. And so if anybody thinks they're going to like today's show, or if you end up liking the show, please share the show. Go to foreignpolicyfocus.libsyn.com, and that's the website for the show. Click the share button there, or go to Kyle's Files, like us on Facebook, and share the show, and that will help the show to grow. This is a growing show. This show is doing well, and I'm really excited about everything going on, and if people could continue to share the show and spread the news, that's super helpful. Even just, a simple like on the Facebook page always helps to bump you up in the rankings a little bit, and any little bit makes a small difference. So thanks everybody for doing everything that you're doing, and now I'll just get into my show for today. So, starting with Mosul, I guess the thing is, and I didn't know either, kind of how to report on this and how to let you guys know what's going on this, just because over the past few weeks, we've slowly gotten different groups of people from lower ranking to higher ranking starting to declare Mosul liberated and saying that they've won the battle for the city. From what I could tell, at least there are maybe 100 or so ISIS fighters. The last I heard as a number was the U.S. General, I believe General Townsend, or a high-ranking U.S. official in Iraq, said that it was about 200 ISIS fighters left in Mosul. I don't know if these people are hiding out in isolated buildings. I know there's an extensive tunnel network they built under the city, and if they're using that to kind of just stow away for now, or if they're actually holding maybe a few square blocks of the city or something like that. It does seem that there was and continues to be at least some fighting in Mosul on a daily basis, and that any declaration that the city is fully liberated and ISIS has been defeated in Mosul is certainly going to be true in a few days, but isn't true yet. And the complicated thing about this is that at least some ISIS fighters are suspected to have blended in with the civilian population, and then are just kind of lying in wait and are posing as civilians, and then have plans to go and maybe blow up checkpoints or attack the Iraqi military or civilians. And so, just being able to declare when Mosul will be officially liberated, I don't know how anyone would go about doing that. And I think that's part of the mess of what today's war is that we're fighting an ideology. We're not fighting Germany. We're not fighting Japan. We're not fighting the North Vietnamese, although in that case we are certainly also fighting the Soviets. But at least then there was a clear enemy, somebody who could say, okay, I give up. With what's going on in the Middle East, that simply doesn't exist. From what I could tell, nobody has any real idea right now if al-Baghdadi, who is the leader of ISIS, is still alive or not. Syrian Human Rights Watch said that they thought he was dead. The U.S. military said there's no proof that he's alive, and now the Kurdish officials have come out and said that they're 99% sure that he's alive and in Raqqa. And so, who knows what's true? Maybe this, the Kurdish statement could easily be a ploy of some kind to try to get more U.S. support in Raqqa. Of course, if al-Baghdadi's dead, that might take away some desire from the American people to continue to fight this war. And so if he's alive and in Raqqa, where the Kurds are fighting now, that would have an incentive for them, because it would probably kick up and provide a little bit more American support to a battle that's going to take out the ISIS leader. Of course, from what we can see, it doesn't seem to really matter anyway. If you look at ISIS in Afghanistan is a great example of this, where time and time again they've taken out the leader of the country. Air Wars Twitter account, I believe it was Air Wars Twitter account, was joking that, or it may have been Moon of Alabama, one of those two, or joking that the case is so ridiculous now that it's like either the U.S. government, every time they launch a drone strike, they're just saying they killed the ISIS leader in Afghanistan, or they're actually killing the ISIS leader in Afghanistan. It just doesn't matter. because they report to have killed 3 or 4 different ISIS in Afghanistan, the head person in the past year, and it doesn't seem, and they continue to gain ground, so it obviously doesn't make a difference if we are killing that person. So this really just goes to what I hope is a common theme of the show, that you simply can't fight an insurgency from the air, and all occupations really aren't going to work out very well for the host country in the long term. There's simply no way to win any of these wars that we're striving to win. I think I'm going to entitle today's show something like Victory Over Rubble, because that's essentially what most of Mosul is at this point. You're seeing type advisors saying that the city's completely destroyed. I've talked to people who have told me that while maybe the east side of Mosul is a little bit more intact, West Mosul has been pretty much reduced to rubble and has been bombed a lot more heavily. You can see pictures of what the liberated city looks like, and it looks terrifying. I mean, hardly a building doesn't have a scar on it. Most buildings are missing at least an obvious chunk of the building. The roof is gone, half the building's gone. It looks like it's about to collapse. I mean, the risk of disease and the amount of, I guess, just unsanitary conditions in that city has to be unbelievable. So many of these places can't continue to have like running water and things like that, so I'm sure it makes it very difficult to use the bathroom. If even your house has a bathroom, maybe that was the part that was hit by a bomb. I'm sure that there's bodies under all this rubble that are starting to, be eaten by rats and starting to decay and, spread disease and all this stuff. And it can't be a very good place to live right now. And so what even did they liberate? Did they help the people in Mosul by destroying their city? And it's really hard to say, and, my point isn't to say that I know that what's best, and what's best was that the United States absolutely should not have destroyed the city of Mosul to kill the ISIS fighters, because maybe the ISIS fighters would kill more civilians than the United States' bombing campaign. However, it doesn't seem to me like the people in Mosul had a whole lot of choice in the matter, and that this was mostly inflicted upon them by the United States. Of course, leading up to this whole situation, the United States, obviously, John Kerry admitted that, we watched ISIS grow to see what would happen with it, and, we could have stopped it out early, but we thought it was going to be helpful against Bashar al-Assad. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, of course, smuggled Gaddafi's old weapons from Libya to Syria to help the fighters there. Congress approved the shipping of man-pads through Saudi Arabia and Qatar to the Syrian rebel groups to give them the ability to shoot down Syrian government planes. CIA and Pentagon programs to arm and train Syrian rebels netted zero gain whatsoever, but did end up providing a whole lot of arms, either indirectly or directly, to Al-Qaeda-linked groups in Syria. Some of those groups being the groups that will one day become ISIS. And so when you look at the situation in Mosul, the United States has to take responsibility prior to the liberation of Mosul, because ISIS would not hold and control the city had it not been, you could go all the way back to George Bush's original invasion of Iraq in 2003, but certainly just, looking at from Barack Obama's turn, he could have ended this, or at least prevented this mess from occurring without the support for the Syrian rebels. But again, just that the people in Mosul didn't get to say, maybe there's a much more efficient way to rid the city of the ISIS fighters. It doesn't seem like we ever try a different strategy, but it does seem like the air campaign strategy always produces more terrorists and destroyed cities. So I think my general point would just be that I wouldn't want the United States to take the lead here and do all this bombing, even if ISIS is an enemy worth bombing. I don't know. I'm not a military strategist. I can't make that call. However, it does seem like the people that are going to get bombed should be the ones that have some sort of say, some sort of direction in their own lives, and maybe they rather live under ISIS than a bombing campaign. I don't know which one it would be. We've already seen video footage coming out of Iraqi forces killing, torturing, throwing suspected ISIS fighters off of cliffs and buildings, and this has largely been praised in the United States. It's kind of framed in, they're getting the really bad ISIS fighters, but these are extrajudicial. This isn't like, civilized people going to court saying, we have these 10 witnesses that say we saw this guy, building a bomb that was used by ISIS. Oh, okay, well that's obviously a criminal offense, and how that society decides to deal with that person is up to them. So if they want to kill that person, then that doesn't seem to be, that seems like we could leave that to the prerogative of the Iraqi society. However, what is unacceptable is that, anybody who gets the finger pointed at them accused of being ISIS gets taken around back and shot. We've seen this with the U.S.-backed Kurdish fighters as well. And again, maybe this is going to happen no matter what. Maybe the Iraqi army is always going to more attack the Sunni minority population. However, why does the United States have to be backing the Iraqi army doing that? So kind of got off on a tangent there, but getting kind of just back to things going with the Mosul situation now that really haven't been covered by the media. And that's the destruction of Mosul compared to Aleppo, specifically the old city of Mosul, and then I believe it was East Aleppo. What we have in both of these cases is cities where there was jihadist insurgencies and controlling, kind of a small enclave of area for a long time. They had been there for years and years, were well dug in. We're using terrorist-like tactics, a lot of sniper fire, killing civilians, using civilians as human shields, firing mortars at civilians, and then also using like suicide bombings themselves in order to hold on to their small bit of territory that they had left. The outcome in East Mosul is you have a very destroyed city, and it's certainly, if you look at the drone footage that they've gotten of the city, which, great, we have technology and Twitter so that gets out. It's a very destroyed city, and it's terrible, but the media really covers this. You see stories on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, showing this horrific footage and saying these poor people were the victims of Assad's bombing war, and that may be true, and I'm not trying to say that I approve of Assad bombing a civilian population, and I condemn the United States for doing it, but just the media reaction to Assad was he's a horrible person, whereas if you look across and you see there's just no coverage of the destruction of West Mosul, and if anything, the media is covering it in a very positive way, saying, look, we got all the bad guys. Now, of course, the Pentagon has already admitted that, we're going to be fighting an insurgency now in Iraq, and it's not just going to be all daisies and sunshine, and now it's time for democracy to spread. We've slayed the last evil dragon in ISIS, and now it's time for good old Western values to take root in Iraq. But likely what we're going to see is a very belligerent, very strong, and very reckless ISIS minority, especially probably in the Anbar province of Iraq, and they're really going to take it to any U.S. troops, any Shia civilians, any Iraqi troops they can, and we could see a very bloody situation in Iraq. And strategically, it may be more difficult to contain an insurgency like that than the ISIS state, and so what I guess all we could hope for right now is that the insurgency is as least powerful as possible. The more effective the insurgency, the more likely the United States will try to escalate the war again in Iraq, and so we just gotta, hope that that the Sunni minority, maybe they'll try to put down the ISIS themselves in hopes that they won't get bombed too much more or something like that. It is certainly not a good situation. Staying on the subject of the war against ISIS, I want to talk about this article I read that was based on Air Wars stats that said since the Trump administration has taken over, 12 civilians every day have died in the war against ISIS. I believe they only use Air Wars data, so that would suggest to me that this is going to only apply to civilian deaths counted in Syria and Iraq, and not civilian deaths caused by the United States either in Yemen, Afghanistan, or Somalia. And so this would certainly, if anything, the number would be low. And it, like I said, 12 civilians die every day from U.S. airstrike. I think at times maybe that doesn't sound like a lot, but a lot of times these airstrikes are hitting home. So, try to maybe imagine like a kind of a suburban area, United States, where there's a lot of, single family homes all around. And, there's a couple thousand homes in a district or a county, and then every day, 4 people in a household, 3 of those homes get blown up seemingly randomly. How would that feel to live there? How terrified would you be? when you have situations where there's like houses either catching fire or exploding and entire families being killed, it's a tragedy that, you know, changes a community and causes a community to take a lot of action. They maybe try to pass some laws to make sure this doesn't happen again, that they're going to rally and try to give some support to the families that were killed. But this is happening, you know, 3 times a day in these countries, where you're just having an entire family at times completely wiped out. I don't know how you could possibly live in a country where that was the case. And I think if you know, think of things that way, you would understand why a lot of these people would maybe be hesitant to receive U.S. support. And as I was talking about before in Mosul, you know, nobody asked the people in Mosul if this is the course of action they wanted. And maybe they would say, well, as much as we hate ISIS and as hard as it's going to be to, you know, kill ISIS and ground-to-ground fighting, if the alternative is that our houses are going to randomly be exploding and our children are going to be dying slowly, crushed under the pile of rubble that was our house, maybe we would prefer to try to do a different kind of liberation here. That doesn't sound like a good deal to them. And I'm sure as absolutely terrible as it is to live under ISIS, I mean, these are the people that, you know, will kill you for being a suspected snitch by dumping you in acid. Obviously horrendous. However, I think you could see why somebody wouldn't necessarily prefer bombs raining down on their town all day long. A couple other stories I want to touch on today. I did see that Turkey was carrying out some airstrikes, it looked like, against Kurdish fighters in the Afrin enclave in Syria. This is something that I've been talking about on the show for quite some time, just seeing how I thought we were kind of coming to this place with Turkey and the Kurds. Turkey has seemingly put up with an awful lot of U.S. supporting the YPG and the SDF forces, which are, you know, basically Kurdish forces that Turkey at least associates with the PKK, a group that labels you know, kind of terrorist separatist group within Turkey. However, other people have different opinions of the PKK, and I'm not going to get into that now, but to Turkey, the YPG, the group that the United States is arguing, they are a terrorist organization that Turkey wants to see wiped out, not armed. The U.S. has been using the YPG to fight ISIS in Syria, and the YPG are apparently pretty effective fighters and have made some pretty significant advances, taking all the way to the ISIS capital of Raqqa, now having surrounded the city and making some progress into that city. That progress may be stalled or halted a little bit with the Turkish airstrikes against the Kurds there. The Kurds will obviously look to resupply the fighters in the territory that they feel is more Kurdish territory over the Raqqa, which is seen as Arab territory. Hopefully the United States will be able to put down this fighting. Any fighting between Turkey and the YPG Kurdish fighters is only going to take away from both of these countries' ability to fight ISIS. It's just unnecessary death and destruction in a country that has seen way too much of it already. Another thing just in Syria that I've been following that I would like to, you know, kind of give everybody a heads up on, and that's the seemingly kind of redistribution of the population of Syria as people are starting to return home in Syria. You're having a case of either Turkey, Israel, the United States, the Kurds, or the Syrian government having influence on where these people end up. It seems like Syria is getting a little bit more segregated. Turkey is putting an awful lot of Syrian refugees who are sympathetic to Turkey and the Syrian rebels in the towns held by the Turkish-backed Syrian rebels. The Assad government, of course, has been arranging deals where Sunni majority civilians and then Syrian rebel fighters are shipped out of areas around more Alawite held or Shiite held areas and sending them to the Idlib province. And so I think the fear is that you're going to have a case where it's going to be impossible to really have a central government in Syria as the borders stand now. I don't know if the partition will happen or if how willing Assad is to accept it, but these moves seem to make it more likely that we're going to end up with some sort of partition in Syria. Of course, you have the YPG backed by the United States holding a pretty significant amount of Syria, and how the Assad government would go about, you know, trying to take that from the YPG without upsetting the United States seems to be a mystery to me. And not a very good situation. Another note out of Syria is that I believe the peace talks, the UN-sponsored peace talks, have now ended, although Russia did say that this time more progress was made, and it sounds like things are moving in a better direction with those peace talks than they have been before, so that's some good news. Alright, and I guess I'm going to close out today just by saying that we need to end these wars. They're unaffordable. They're immoral. They kill civilians. They're making the world a terrible place to live for billions of people, and it could all be ended so easy. It's so unnecessary, and we could do it. We just gotta get people to care. I think it's, maybe about time that the left wing starts to come around against Trump and be against some of these wars. I did see some Democratic representatives push through some amendments to the NDAA this time around that will require more oversight for the United States war against Saudi Arabia, the United States war against the people of Yemen, in Yemen, and potentially an amendment that could even end up ending U.S. support for Saudi Arabia, which would be amazing. And so maybe we are going to see some progress there. Of course, in the Senate, we have great senators Murphy and Paul doing a lot of very hard work on the Yemen situation. Maybe they could shove this through on the Senate side as well, and then we could get an end to war. Wouldn't that be something? At times it seems so far away, but at other times, maybe it could actually happen. So hope for the best, everyone. And if you like the show, please share the show. Go to iTunes, give me a rating and a review. Even if you don't listen on iTunes, give me the rating and review there. Will help the show to look better in the rankings. My personal website is kylesfilesblog.com. I do a news roundup there pretty much every day. Got, like I said, off course this weekend, but there will be one up there tomorrow morning. I also put my news roundups on the libertarianinstitute.org. Great website there. Private Facebook group is Foreign Policy Focus. Twitter handle is @KYAAALE.